gentlemen, we have a very special guest in the building on Just Act Up Show. Round of applause for Robert Clifton Jr. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Man, appreciate, brother. How you feeling, brother?
Feeling good, man. Feeling real good. How y'all doing?
Doing
Doing
good.
well.
Doing well.
Good to
Thank you.
hear. Good to hear.
Are you a morning person?
I'm always up.
Okay, me and you just alike. That artistic mind always flowing, always going.
It's just one long day. That's all it
Yes,
is.
sir.
One long day.
And
No morning.
like the sun, OJ, huh?
What's that?
I go James are just saying bright and early like OJ, like
right.
juice.
Oh, bright and early like the orange juice. Yeah, man.
Scrambling all the time, baby. Scrambling all the time.
Yes, sir. Man, now where are you originally from now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, Cavalier Manor to be exact. I don't know if you know anything about Cavalier Manor. I would probably say I'm the most famous person from my neighborhood would probably be Missy Elliott. When I say neighborhood, I mean subdivision, not like I'm from Chicago and somebody else from Chicago, but like literally when you go through the between the two bricks that say Cavalier Manor, same schools, same playground, all that good stuff. But a lot of special people out of Cavalier Manor, Portsmouth, and Virginia.
Yeah, man. I love it, brother. It's always them small towns where the people that come in and then just take over and everything. So yeah, shout out to you and your town, brother. Thank y'all for bringing y'all talent, y'all art to life and presenting it towards us. So thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's go ahead. Let's get into the interview, brother. Let's get to know you a little bit, man. So first question, of course, how did you get started in your profession and how did it begin?
Well, I would say it actually started probably, hanging out when I was a young kid. We used to play the dozens. I don't know what y'all call it, Jones and joking. Where you go back and forth with each other. Your head's so big. So on and so forth. Which is really kind of what advertising is, right? Like this car is so amazing, this food tastes so good. Like that's kind of what you do in advertising. And so I grew up, drawing a lot. I was one of those kids that had, his painting hanging up in the mall when they took, stuff from the art class, things like that. And then I was really good at writing. And then I kind of stepped away a little bit because I played a lot of sports. But then when I got to Hampton, I went to Hampton University out of high school. And I was there and I started studying marketing. And at some point I saw a Super Bowl commercial. And I remember thinking, oh, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? I could come up with ideas for the Super Bowl commercial or any commercial. And then I went to my counselor and my counselor said, well, you kind of studying the wrong thing. You need to be studying advertising. And so they said, we don't have like TV classes or anything like that. You should be studying like advertising, journalism, writing. And so I transferred to Norfolk State. And when I went over to Norfolk State, then I started taking advertising, journalism, really learned about the business. At one point, it's interesting how, the world works. I'm a universe person. And there was a class, nobody liked taking advertising. And so all of the people that were taking marketing and business and accounting, they had to take an advertising class. But in that class, they had a speaker come over. And that speaker was for extra credit, right? It was in the evening. You went and you seen this guy. He would tell us about advertising. And, you got 15 extra points or something. Yeah. And as soon as it was over, everybody left, right? And so as everybody, poured out of the classroom, the dude was like, okay, I guess they don't care. So he turned around, started putting the stuff in his bag. When he turned around, I was the only person sitting there. Right? And I was like, yo, I want to do this, right? I want to be a copywriter. I want to come up with the ideas. His name was Scott Mackey. And he worked in Norfolk at this agency called Lawler Ballard. And so I asked him, could I come over and shadow him? And he was like, yeah, sure. But, why don't you, learn a little bit more about the business? I'm going to give you this book to read called Ogilvy on Advertising. So I went to the store that night. I got the book. I read the book. I called him the next day and I said, yo, when can I come over? He's like, well, you got to read the book first. I was like, no, I read it last night. And he was like, what? So then we started going into it. He was kind of quizzing me to see if I really read the book. I was telling him, the things that I learned. I was asking him about, on page 42, what did they mean by that? So my man, I guess he figured I was serious. A couple of days later, I went over, I shadowed him, and I was like, yo, I want to do this. And then I found out that it's a very hard business to get in. It's, it's kind of like trying to be an actor or something.
Right.
Very few people do it in the country, even less Black people at the time. It's still a lack of diversity in the side, like it is in Hollywood. And
Mm.
and so I went down. I had to find out I need to go to the Portfolio Center, and that was kind of the premier school that you go to. It's only like 3 schools in the country. You go down there, they teach you how to make commercials, and then you go get a job. So I moved to Atlanta, went to the Portfolio Center, figured everything out, got recruited to this agency, Leo Burnett in Chicago. It's one of the biggest agencies in the world. And I went there and I started, coming up with ideas and making TV commercials, also make billboards, radio commercials, and as, time went on, you start to do experiential, where people come to see things and the brands there to have you sample it. And then even social media nowadays, as you know, there's lots of stuff on TikTok and Instagram, things of that nature. And then in the business, I just kind of jumped around,
Yeah.
and we'll probably talk about this a bit, but there is a lack of diversity in the business.
Yes.
And so, I was one of the very few when I started. And it's still not enough people in the business. Uh,
Mm.
but what I did was some people, it's very hard. It was very hard for people, Black people, to get into the general market side, which is the big agencies that speak to everybody. Most of them worked in the multicultural side, meaning they worked at a Black agency doing commercials for Black people.
Yeah.
I was on the other side doing commercials for everybody, where you have a bigger
Mm.
budget, things of that nature. But at some point, I decided to switch over. And
Yeah.
it was a bit controversial. If I don't know if that's the right word, but people were like, "Why would you do that?" Right? Because I was on the side with all the money and the power,
Mm.
but I wanted to go to the other side and see how that works. And uh, s- you know, s- uh, get more variety and expand my abilities. And
Yeah.
so then I went on that side. I learned that side, and then that's been my career. Kind of, I jump back and forth between
Yeah.
the agencies that are helping clients connect to multicultural consumers, and then the agencies that's just talking to everybody. And so that's given me a real good breadth of understanding. And so that's what I apply every day.
Love
That's,
that.
it's definitely good to have that diversity and that ability to go between the two. And it's definitely needed in that industry. Today, let's talk about though your collaboration with Walmart and how did that all come to fruition?
So 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago or so, I actually started an agency called Contender. And I have a co-founder, a business partner, Christian May Stewart. And we started this agency and we ended up pitching Walmart. We won
Mm.
Walmart and they gave us this assignment to talk to Black dads for
Mm.
Father's Day. And so they have a program called Black and Unlimited, and it's really focusing on, speaking to Black consumers and showing them, in a fair and, representing them in the way that we truly are, right? And all the diversity that we bring into the world. And, we don't always get that in media.
Right.
And so this platform is designed for that. And they had an assignment for Father's Day. And so we came up with this idea of and actually came out of research, right? And that research was that, the media doesn't necessarily portray us as we truly are
Mm.
when it comes to Black fathers. And there was a bunch of statistics. And then, I'm sure, like me, plenty of fathers. I don't know if y'all guys are fathers, but, I have 3 sons. And I grew up with a bunch of kids that all have kids and they're all great fathers, right?
Yeah.
They go really hard for their kids and, they're teaching them everything and supporting them. And so you have this narrative out there that doesn't necessarily speak to those people. And so we came up with this idea of saying, hey, uh, you know, kids probably see, like all kids, Black kids see their dads as superheroes, right?
Yeah.
Dad comes to the rescue, right? You ask your dad for something and he comes through. And so we came up with this idea of what if we portrayed them that way? And we did an animated series because you've seen some other things talking about Black dads, but we hadn't really seen anything animated. So we
Mm.
said, what if we had this animated series and we called them the League of Black and Unlimited Dads? and we show how they show up for their kids, and we put that out for Father's Day, knowing that, you know, black dads and all the people who see black dads in action would appreciate it, and the kids as well. And so we came up with that idea.
Yeah, man, this is so beautiful, brother, and I thank y'all. And first and foremost, like me watching, that short real quick. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I got a little misty eye, bro. I don't know, it's just me as a father. Like I get like my little baby girl. That like that's how it is being a father. That show everything. And I'm like, I wouldn't expect to tear up watching this cartoon, and I'm sitting there watching it. And I'm like, just thought about my little girl and the moments that we had and everything. So appreciate you, team, for coming up with this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know what's really crazy is, when you're working on things, you see it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You look at it over and over again, going, should we change this and should we change that? And you see it at every stage when it's just a drawing, and it's a pencil, and it's on a board. Then it comes to life, and then you're checking the music. And every time I see it, I still have a feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so that's crazy when you come up with ideas like that. I think one of the really amazing things is it was just brought to life so well by a company called Martian Blueberry. And it's a company that was started by Carl Jones and Love Jones. And Carl is the animator for the Boondocks.
Oh, yeah.
So, when you do projects, we come up with these ideas and they're on paper, but then you have to have people help you bring them to life, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you'll be like, oh, I want to shoot with Spike Lee, but Spike Lee ain't available.
Right.
So you go down the line and you find different people to help you. But sometimes you get a dream team, right? You get the director you want, you get the stylist you want, you get the camera person you want, and when you get all those people together, and it's the right people, the music, then you make something amazing. And as soon as you assemble the team, you're like, oh, this one's going to be a beast, right?
Yeah.
You know that right off the bat. And in this particular case, when we reached out to Carl, and he was down, he's a dad too. And we got on the phone, we got on the Zoom, and we showed him the idea. And he was like, yo, I know this feeling, right? I have this with my kids too. We're going to put this together. We're going to hook it up. And then, he starts to bring other people in, and, we got the voiceover. And then we get, the music, and you start pulling all these people together, and every single piece of it is amazing. And then, when you just lay it all together, you just get the full impact. And it's interesting because, the average person doesn't think of it that way, right? They just see the finished product. But for us, watching it come to life, I had the same thing. I just kept looking at it, and I kept saying to, other people, yo, this is going to be amazing when we get finished. It's already, it's 10%. Yeah. And it's killing it, right? When we get to 110%, it's going to be amazing.
No, I'm definitely enjoyed it as well. Just to have that, because the narrative that they put out there about just black fathers not being present or being absent. I know that wasn't my experience growing up. Like I had my dad and stepdad who always showed up, and so seeing a positive image like that, that's necessary, that's needed. Because that's not everybody's experience. There may be a few, but we also have the positive side of it that needs to be displayed more.
Yeah, and I think too, even people who, didn't have, their dad around, there's always a dad figure, right? It's an uncle, it's the next door neighbor, right? It's all, it's your coaches, it's all kinds of people who, would step in. But, in my neighborhood, all the dads were there, right? And I live in a predominantly black neighborhood today, and all the dads are there. You see them outside walking around with their kids, teaching them how to ride their bike, throwing the football with them, right? You see them supporting the kids as they grow older. And, my youngest son just turned 18 and graduated from high school, and there's phases of raising kids, right? They're real young, and you're just bringing them up, and then they're tying their shoes. And then when you get, you get into the teenage years, you got to kind of steer them and straight. And then when they become grown, you're still raising them, right? And you're learning from them as well. And so, that whole experience, we just need, I commend Walmart as well for creating a platform and approving it and allowing us to do it authentically, right? And then, of course, none of us have the scale or the influence to push it out like that, but to create the media and get it out like that, we really appreciate Walmart for allowing us to do it.
Right.
I sell a lot of stuff as an ad agency and as an
Mm,
advertising writer. You're selling all kinds of things, right? Soda pop, food,
mm,
vacations, all of those things. And then sometimes you get to work on something like seat belts or something like this, where it's really powerful. And,
yeah.
where you're not just selling a thing, you're selling an idea, a notion, and it's impacting culture,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And that's, those are kind of things that I think, I would want to be remembered for, not
Yeah.
that you get to control your legacy, but
Yeah.
not just that you did, things that help sell people products, but you also did things that shifted culture.
Yeah.
Man,
Man.
you and you and the co-founders, man, you and your team, man, everybody, shout out to all of them because y'all definitely did speak to the culture on this, brother. We and also thank you for was it Carl for the Boondock?
Yeah, Carl
Yeah,
Jones.
one of my favorite shows. Like one of my favorites, one of the classics right there, brother. So thank you and thank you to your team as well on that, man. And so shifting gears real quick, I'll checking out your Instagram.
Mhm.
And was that you up in the sky enjoying a delectable meal, brother? Was that you, or was that a video with somebody, some other people? That because it was like y'all was flying. The
Oh,
video was
no,
like,
no, that was something I saw that was interesting. That I, I,
okay,
I think I sent it. I was sending it to my wife. I asking her would she do that.
yeah,
Would she go and float out above the sky like that and
yeah,
have dinner? So no,
yeah,
that wasn't me. But maybe one
okay,
day, right?
yeah, man. Because I'm about to say, man, talk about that, bro. Because I was like, man, I don't know if I, woo,
Now I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Having a business, when you're working in the business and you're a creative,
yeah,
you understand there's lots of working, right? Because you're always coming up with ideas, trying to come up with more
yeah,
and more and make them better. But in particular, when you own an agency, then you're in charge of everything, right? It's a huge
yeah,
learning curve, right? As I like to tell people, I've almost been thrown out the car several times here as we've taken the curve. Um, but you stay pretty busy, so I haven't had a lot of time for stuff like that. As we get the agency up and running, and as we're trying to help clients understand that when they tap into culture, they have to do it in a respectful way.
right,
And like at our agency, we always talk about the fair exchange, right?
Yeah.
Like,
mm,
if you're gonna tap culture, there should be a fair exchange between culture and the brands. Because brands use, music from the culture and slang from the culture, things of that nature in order to sell their products. We always say there should be a fair exchange. And like in this particular case, yes, sure, this is promotional in nature, right? But at the same time, it's changing culture. A lot of people worked on it, who are people from the culture. They got checks, right? They get this
mm,
particular thing to put in their portfolio, which will help them get more checks, right?
Yeah.
That's a fair exchange to me in the culture. Sometimes people are dip into the culture and then they just leave, right?
yeah,
And so we're very conscious of trying to create that fair exchange and explain to brands the power of that and how that helps them create a relationship with the consumers from the culture.
Yeah.
Because if you look now, you can see how our how culture is driving
mm,
everything.
Hmm.
And the
yes,
culture, it drives behavior, which drives purchases, which drives business,
Yeah.
right? So
mm,
culture is very powerful, and everybody's trying to figure out how to tap into it. And there's only a few people within our industry that truly understand it.
Yeah.
And so
mm,
that's why we started the agency, because we see a huge opportunity there to not only grow our business, but help the culture get the respect and the due that it should get.
Yeah.
amen.
So would you say that's like one of the biggest obstacles that's in that space right now, just connecting culture and the businesses to for that fair exchange?
Yeah. I think it's easy to connect the culture, right? Like,
Mm-hmm,
brands are quick to, grab a song and throw it on,
mm-hmm,
throw it underneath, a commercial that they have, right? The
Yeah.
question is, what are they really dealing with the culture? And if you're from the culture, you understand that there's, it's kind of like there's a certain contribution that you make to the culture.
Yeah.
right? Just being in it and how you're moving. And so that allows you to take from the culture. I think it feels
Mm,
weird sometimes when brands pop in, take something, they haven't really put anything into the culture. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the culture has, a problem with it. And so it's not a problem to get people to indulge, it's a problem of getting everybody to understand how they
mm,
should be indulging. And it's to their benefit, right? Because if you engage properly, then you're gonna create a better relationship, which is gonna drive your business more.
Yeah.
right. Facts on top of facts. I love that, man. Thank you. Thank you. You're right about that. Another another quick question. You went to the France, was it the Cannes Festival?
Yep, cans. Yep.
Cannes, it was Cannes.
Well,
I
they
was trying to
they
say
call it
Cannes.
all kinds of things. It depends on if you're from France, if you're
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Malaysia, or if you're from Georgia, right?
right.
They
So
say I say cans, they say con, they say
Con,
con. But yeah,
Con, yeah.
Cannes Film Festival. There's the Cannes Film Festival, but then there's also an advertising festival. And
Oh,
the advertising festival is kind of like the Oscars of advertising. You
gotcha.
know,
Okay.
people from all around the world send their commercials in. A bunch of
Yeah,
judges, people in the business vote, and then they give out these lion trophies. And you get to go up on stage and pick up the lion.
yeah.
Thank moms and dads, and all the people that were behind you to get you here to win this award.
That is pretty cool because I was gonna ask you about how the trip was when you went, and I didn't know that they have festivals like that to show advertisements and commercials. So that's thank you for sharing that with us and or just being there. Period. How was that trip when you went?
It was amazing. In particular, I took my two youngest sons. Right, like I said, I
Yeah.
have three sons. One's 37, my namesake. I'm sorry, 27, my namesake, and then I have a 21-year-old and 18-year-old, and 21-year-old is Cassius, and
Hmm.
the 18-year-old is Marcellus, and I took them with me to Cannes, so they got to go to the south of France, and they're majoring in sports in school, and so they got to meet a lot of people over there that are in the sports industry because advertising intersects as athletes and commercials, right? And so there's a whole bunch of sports people over there too. So that gets them a head start on creating some relationships. And
Yeah.
then you see a lot of old friends, a lot of people that's working in advertising. It's kind of a privilege because everybody in the business doesn't get to go to Cannes.
Yeah.
Um, and and so you run into a lot of other people. Some people work in the business forever, and they work 30 years, they never get to go to Cannes.
Yeah.
Um, it's most of the people who have the best work. And then if you are up for an award, then you can go over there. And it's a lot of networking. And like I said, seeing a lot of old friends. So very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. And it was great for my kids because they got to see how to move and how the whole thing
Right.
plays out, right? Get them that head start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's good. That's dope. That's dope. If I didn't go career wise into radio, I always had wanted to go into the space of advertising, and so just to hear this side of it and just you break it down, like yeah, I was just like
Hey, it ain't too late. It ain't too late. We growing, we looking for talent, right? Trying to get all of the people and especially in particular kids, right?
mhm,
Sometimes when I go out and speak, of course at all, and my kids, when they were growing up, when they had career day, a lot of times I would go and speak. And
mhm.
it's interesting because, kids don't really think about where commercials come from. You know,
Yeah.
I had this thing I would do is I would start out and I would ask kids like, what's their favorite song? Right? And the kids could tell you the song, right? And then I
yeah,
say, well, who made up the song? And they could tell you all the artists, right?
Yeah.
And I say, what's your favorite movie? And they tell you. And then I say, well, who made the movie, right? And they could, Spike Lee or Denzel was in that. They know all those things. I go, what's your favorite commercial? And then they could throw out all these commercials. And I say, where's it come from? They have no idea, right? And that allows you to go in and say, okay, so there's ad agencies and people get in a room and they go round and around, just like when you come up with an idea for a movie or a song, but they
Yeah.
coming up with an idea for a commercial that helps sell you a product. Then you show them a couple of commercials, and there's kids in that room who are doodling on their,
yeah,
notebook, that they're joking on each other, they're funny,
Yeah.
they're super creative, and they have no idea that that could be a career, right?
Yeah.
So it's always good to expose them to that. And as Contender, grows, we are looking for all of the contenders that exist in the world to pull them in and to get them to bring their talent to us so we can continue to grow our business, continue to shift advertising, and help, the economy grow as they try to tap into culture. And of course, we know the demographics of the country is changing, and brands need to learn how to engage consumers of color and talk to them and how to convince them and make their pitch for you to buy their product. And so it's gonna, I would say to you, brother Big Chris, if you have aspirations for it, definitely jump in. You could read Ogilvy on advertising. It'll kind of explain it to you really quickly, like, oh, I get it now. Then the one thing it ruins for you is now when you watch a commercial, you'll try to break down, what are they trying to tell me? What are they trying to say? Who are they selling it to? So it's interesting though, right?
Man, we needed you in the room with those clothes, with those people who make the decision with them clothes. You know what I'm talking about? When people was like, oh, they put the wrong person on the wrong shirt with the wrong saying and everything.
Oh
And,
yeah. You talking about when they had the shirt and they had the black kid in the shirt and they said
about the monkey and all
yeah,
that.
something about monkey. Yeah. There's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of that. The industry's gotten better.
Yes.
Like Hollywood, but it's quite a ways to go, right? It's quite a ways to go, and hopefully we can, be part of that. And as some of these brands start to say, hey, I need some different kind of people in the room, then they will look to agencies like ours and and allow us to help them grow their business.
Yeah, we definitely.
I'm definitely gonna look into that. One or two more questions before we get you out of here. Just let our audience know, going back to the black the League of Black Dads. Go ahead, just tell our audience where they can see the full video at, where they can follow you, find you.
Yeah, you can see the full video at walmart.com / Black and Unlimited. It's actually on the website when you go there, and that's part of the Walmart website where they keep all of the black-led products. There's lots of black products inside of Walmart, and they keep them in a certain section. You can also see it on YouTube. You can just type in, Black and Unlimited Dads. Of course, I have it up on my LinkedIn page at Robert Clifton Jr. And so there's lots of ways to see it. And really, if you type in, the League of Black and Unlimited Dads, it'll pop up. So that's where it's out there. It's still floating around. We released it in the beginning of June, leading up to Father's Day. It was also, we had a panel down at the American Black Film Festival, which was very interesting. And we had Carl on the panel. Carl Jones was on the panel, and he was up there with my man's gonna kill me because I met him a couple of times. Leroyce, I forget his last name, but he's on Chicago PD.
Leroyce Hawkins.
Yeah, Leroyce Hawkins, who was funny as hell. And then they had Lance Gross was on the panel. Nice. And that was hosted by one of the clients, DJ, one of our clients, and he just talked to them, and they talked about first they showed the film to the crowd, got great round of applause, and then they talked about being black. They talked about the film. Carl talked about making it with us, and then people got to ask them questions, about the film, and talk about what they thought of it, and then they talked about the film, how they felt about it, and then they talked about being black dads in Hollywood. What's it like when you're a black dad in Hollywood? And Carl has amazing stories about one of his funniest ones was when he was saying they were on a bus trip and he was chaperoning, and his kid was there, and the bus pulled up, and it was a giant thing on the side of this building of the Boondocks with one of the kids giving the finger. Right. And he said his kid was like, my dad did that. Right. So that was hilarious. Right. But, they talked about being, the importance of, trying to be present and, what they do for a living, and then, their dads, and, so it just, it creates a lot of great conversation. And I think that's what it's designed to do. And within that conversation, you recognize, the reality of, black dads and, what it's like to be a black dad. And I think that's just great. And that's why I said when I posted on Facebook, I said, this is dedicated to all of my friends, right? Because, you grow up with a bunch of kids, right? And some of the kids, I lived in my neighborhood since I was 9 years old. Yeah, I know these kids forever, and I know all of their kids, and I know what they do, and I know how hard they go. Right. And so, it's like, hey, you feel seen now, right? Right. And that the world has to see it, and it can't be denied. And when that conversation happens, then the truth comes out.
Yeah, man. Appreciate
Did I
it.
answer every question? I feel like you asking me something else.
No, that was perfect. Great. That was perfect. This platform is useful for y'all, for the guests to come on and talk about everything that they do and what they deal with, man. So yeah.
Like I said, it's been it's been an amazing journey. I think it's one of those things that's gonna last forever, if you will. It's had that kind of impact, when people talk about it, like it's one of those things that people will never forget. And in your career, if you can do a couple of things like that in my business, that's very powerful, right? Like and I've done, I did the Wario spot. I don't know if you know the character Wario for Nintendo.
Yeah.
I did the first Wario commercial, and me and my partner kind of discovered him and gave him a voice, and brought him to the forefront for Nintendo. And then also I did the Edward Scissorhands commercial for the Super Bowl. I don't know if you remember that. He couldn't drive because he had scissor hands. and then they had the self-driving car. So, you got a couple things like that in your career that people can remember you by. It's a little bit like Beckham catching the ball with one hand, right?
Yeah.
Like it defines you. And so I said to my kids, I go, I used to think, that it was Scissorhands commercial or Wario would define my career, but now I think it's this black dads thing.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be the thing that people will remember me from. And when you get to heaven or that other place and you see me, then maybe you could tell me what they were talking about at my funeral. You know what I'm saying?
Man, we appreciate you, because that's the same thing we talk about too. Because we meet the hosts, me, Chris, Tashay, and Mike. Other two hosts are on here. We're actors and writers as well too, and so we always keep thinking about that very first commercial that everybody sees us from. Like Chris has the Waterbury commercial. Mike has the Jiffy Lube that I think it hasn't came out yet. Tashay, she's still waiting on that one commercial for hers. And me, I had the Street Fighter commercial with Lil Wayne. So it's like we always think about like us as actors and growing as like, man, is this gonna be the one everybody go back to, and that's going to define us and see us. So for you to bring that up, it's just making us smile about our work that we've done over the years and everything. So appreciate you for bringing this up and talking about the advertisement and everything.
It's very, it's very cool to be a maker. That's what I call it, right? You're making something, right? And so it's amazing. We're working on a lot of projects. Of course, we got some more cool stuff coming out for Walmart because, we do commercials for back to school and for holiday. And, they gain a lot of traction and get a lot of people talking on social. And we're also working on a TV series that we're trying to bring to life. So, hopefully we'll cross paths again, which is one of my favorite things, is to walk in the room and, you're working on something and people introduce you to somebody. You're like, we know each other. We go way back. We did a podcast.
Right.
I'm ready. I'm ready to sit on the couch of some, late night talk show.
Yeah.
And talk about, wait a minute, y'all knew each other already. Yeah. We did a podcast one time about this other thing. Now we got this TV series. They got a role in it. They wrote this other thing. And then I took what they wrote and put that in the commercial. Like, we just keep collaborating, right? Yeah. And that's how you come up in the world, right? People think you're competing, but we should be collaborating.
We were just talking about that this morning. Literally. Like about collaboration and how like a lot of people, everybody wants to be a chief, but nobody wants to, just work together and learn from each other. You can't always everybody can't be the boss, but collaboration, helping each other out, working together, building, that's how you grow.
Well, I always look at it like this. I look at it like a continuum, right? And I try to explain to my kids that where they fit in the continuum, right? I'm like, there's people before you. You do understand that, they're young, they're arrogant, right? There was somebody before you that's been making all these moves and doing all these things, and that's in your family, but also just in, culture, right? They've been pushing for things and trying to, get more access and, change narratives. And so as they're pushing it forward, at some point it's your turn to step in. You're going to carry the ball a bit further down the field. So you're responsible for that, right? You have this opportunity, but it doesn't stop here. You got to carry it for the next person that's coming behind you, whether that's your kids or it's just the people that's, working in radio or working in TV or making movies. We got to keep moving things along. So I always think of it as not where do we need to be, but it's almost like you look back to where we used to be, and here's where we are now. And if we're in motion, then I know we're gonna get to where we need to be, right? And so I'm excited that y'all were having the same conversation, right? Because that says, the like minds of the world are thinking the same thing. And so as we collaborate more and more, I know we'll get to where we're going. And I'm comfortable with that, right? I'm patient enough and comfortable with the idea that we'll get there at some point. And so I just got to keep grinding right now and, do my piece, right?
Yeah. And that's some gems in itself, ladies and gentlemen. Man, there you have it. There you have it. Thank you again, brother. Thank you for thank you for this whole conversation overall, man. Thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Thank you. I went and I looked at some of your, before I came on, I saw Just Acting Up. I said, I don't know what, let me go ahead and make sure I understand exactly what these guys doing, right? Because I want to make sure I can hang with them. And so I love all of the content y'all putting out, and appreciate y'all as well, and having a platform as powerful as you have, and talking back and forth. And I was getting into it. I said, look, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I can't look at too many of these. I got work to do.
Hey, go down and go for us. Go down that rabbit hole, brother. We need the view. We appreciate the views and clicks, but we appreciate that. That means so much. That people are like tuning in and checking us out and everything, and it just means a lot to us. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your energy. Sending it right back to you. Let's keep doing it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.